let's talk about something new. I'm not sure if we can still call it something new because that was released in 2015. Yeah, so it's not that new anymore. But anyway, compared to based on JavaScript history, that's still considered relatively new. Yeah, that's called the REST parameter. So I'm going to present you a problem. I'm not even going to talk about REST parameter now. I'm going to present you a problem, and then we'll see how difficult that problem is to solve without the REST parameter and how trivial it is to solve with the REST parameter. So imagine I got a function called sum, and the function receives a list of numbers, or let me call it numbers. Yeah. So then I'm going to call the function sum, and I'm going to pass few numbers. So for instance, 1, 2, and 3. So what should that function return based on the semantics? That's correct, 6. And now you tell me, how can I do that? How can I solve the problem? Maybe, yeah. What? Numbers that reduce, and then what? What do you think, guys? Is Elena right or wrong? She's right, right? Yeah, that's probably the easiest way, the most pragmatic way of adding the numbers on a list. So, I mean, let's try it. Let's see if it works. You can see Elena is right. And that's okay, right? Guys, will that work if I change the number of valid numbers? So if I modify the size of the array, so for instance, if I pass -1, will that function will be resilient enough to get the total out of the list? Yeah, which is correct, right? So the beautifulness of that function is it doesn't matter if the array has 1 element or 20. It's gonna work all the time. Yeah. By the way, a bit off topic, but what happens if I pass an int array? What's that gonna return? All right. So Elia said undefined. Cool. Thank you, Elia. Who else wants to participate? True. Wait. Max said true. Aaron said empty array. I think who else? Vicky, you said empty array as well. Lauren and Elena, error. Why error, Lauren and Elena? Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Look, remember that when we use reduce, we don't necessarily need the default value unless there is nothing to iterate. Because if there is nothing to iterate, what's that going to return? Yeah. So if we run that code, you see it returns an error. It returns an error because there is nothing to iterate. Yeah. So imagine that I want to return 0 if there is nothing in the array. How can we solve the problem? That's correct, Lauren. You see? So thanks to that, so now that algorithm should work and it should return 0. That's correct, Lauren. Any questions so far? No? Alright, so that's the way it works when we have arrays, and that's easy. However, what happens if I got two numbers, 5 and 6? You may be thinking, alright, so why don't you put AB and then you return A plus B? Will that work? Let's have a look. It works, that's fine. But what if suddenly now we want to add 5, 6, and 1? Is that gonna work? And then, all right, then you may say, all right, let's add C, and then eventually that's gonna work, right? If we run it, it works. But what if suddenly we remove 1? Is that gonna work? What's that gonna return, first of all? Vicky. Undefined. Who else? All right. Thank you, Elena. Who else? So Elena, Maxim, Vicky, Aaron. All right. Who else? All right. All right. Lauren, Max, any thoughts? So Lauren, which team do you support? Or you say? Oh, that was risky, right? So Lauren said we'll return 11. All right, I'll tell you something. If I got that's a pretty fundamental question, but if I had to answer that question as part of a job interview, I will hesitate for a few seconds. I'm 95% sure, and I could be wrong, but I'm 95% sure you are all wrong. And the reason why you are all wrong is because I believe that's gonna return not a number. Let's run it. Let's see if I'm right or not. Here we go. I was right. Yeah. Why? Well, because A plus B, easy, 5 plus 6, 11. But what's the value of C? Undefined. So what happens if we do 11 plus undefined? JavaScript doesn't know what the hell 11 plus undefined means, right? That's why it returns not a number. Yeah. That's a bit strange, but you know, when you see NaN, that's not it's not a number. Guys, do you know what is that going to return? That's one of the oddities of JavaScript. Is not a number not a number? That's correct. Yeah, that was just an oddity. Well, not an oddity. Wait. That's not an oddity as such, but that's just something to a bit off topic. Yeah. So not a number is a keyword in JavaScript, and then you also have a method called is not a number. Be careful with the case. I've seen many developers doing things like that. Hey, why this doesn't work? Oh, notice namespace export declaration, whatever that means, right? If I do something like that, that's not gonna work because that method doesn't exist. So be careful with the case, of your methods. All right. So, and what if I do something like that? What's that gonna return? Wait. I'm not calling the method anymore, right? So 5, 6, and then 5 and 6. What's that gonna return? So Elena said 14. Why 14, Elena? Yeah, that's correct. So in this occasion, because C is not provided, we're gonna initialize it to 3. So then we'll do 5 plus 6 plus 3, which, as Elena said, is 14. Yeah? Easy peasy. All right, but you see the problem, right? The problem with this algorithm is it's not strong enough. I mean, as soon as I change the input, as soon as I change something, I need to modify the function. That's not gonna scale, guys. That's not gonna scale. So with arrays, it was fine because we were using reduce and fantastic. But now we don't have an array. We have a comma separated list. How many arguments do we receive? We don't know. The thing is, we can call the function many times. If we call it once, that's gonna be okay. But if we call the function again, passing a different number of attributes, you see, it's not gonna work. And you may think, all right, why don't we do something like that? But still, you see the problem, right? How many arguments are we gonna pass? Because it's gonna be okay at some point, but eventually that's gonna break, right? I mean, can you tell me a scenario where that's not gonna work? That's correct, Max. That's correct, Max. As soon as we pass a fifth argument, that's not gonna work, right? That's not gonna work. That's gonna return not enough. Oh, wait a minute. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait. I did something wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. All right. No. So wait a minute. It's not returning not a number, But the problem is it's not calculating the total correctly, yeah? Because 5 plus 6 plus 6 plus 1 plus 2 is 11, 17, 18, that's 20. But it's reporting 18. Why? Because the fifth argument is not considered at all. So you know my point. I mean, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is against robustness. Yeah. So you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. So let me show you a very sexy way of solving the problem. How many arguments do we receive? I mean, I'll tell you something. We don't know. We don't know. Could be 1, 2, or 20. We don't know. So when we don't know how many arguments we receive, we can do that. You see? Dot, dot, dot. So, dot, 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 when applied on an argument, it gathers them all. Gathers, yeah? So, yeah, so it gathers. What gathers means? What gathering means? Means that we don't know if we got 1 argument, 2 arguments, 3 arguments. It will gather them all. So numbers will contain all the arguments. And now, based on that, can you figure out what type of data numbers is? That's correct, Lauren. Numbers has to be an array. An array of, in the first case, 4 numbers. In the second case, an array of 2 numbers, 3, whatever. Yeah, it's an array of numbers. So based on that, we can bring the algorithm back. Right? Remember, numbers.reduce. And then we got total number. And then we return total plus number. Let's put the 0 just in case. Yeah? So that should work regardless of how many comma separated. There's something wrong. Return numbers, not numbers. Sorry. No, sorry, it's numbers. That was my fault. All right. So you see? So now it doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter how many arguments we got. I mean, if I had a look, if I see that code, that's a bit smelly. Why you got so many arguments? But that's a different story, right? So purely talking about the syntax, that's correct. Yeah, that's gonna work regardless of what the number of arguments is. So the 3 dots gathers all the arguments when applied on a function argument, like this case. And so, first of all, any questions? Into an array, that's correct. That's correct. An array of whatever. In this case, we got an array of numbers, but we could have an array of strings, an array of booleans, an array of arrays, even. We can have whatever you want. Yeah. It just, yeah. Well, that's a good question. What happened? That's a good question. It's the same. Actually, it's the same thing. What happened if I pass something like that? I don't think so. I don't think so. What type of data numbers is? Always, when you use this, the gather of the rest parameter used as an argument, it's always going to be an array. But then an array of what? So numbers equal. What do we have inside? Do we have the numbers? That's correct. That's correct. You see? That's strange, but that's correct. Look, if we got numbers, we got that. Yeah, easy. But if you gather, it's gonna bring them all. Why? Because what happens if we got other argument like hello people? We can have that as well, right? So what's that gonna return? Numbers is gonna be hello people. You see, an array with all the arguments. The first argument will be the first element of the array. The second argument is going to be the second element of the array, regardless of whether it's a string, a boolean, or another array. Yeah. So it's Vicky, go for it. Just the numbers. So 4, 5, and 6 with the array. we want to return. Yeah, but that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. Why that's not gonna work? Because numbers is an array of arrays. So numbers dot reduce total is gonna be 0, but what's gonna be the first number? Vicky? That's wrong. The first. Can anyone tell me what the first number is gonna be? That's correct. That's correct. Numbers dot reduce, that will iterate over each element on the array. The first and last element of the array is another array. So in reality, what you are doing here is 0 plus 4, 5, and 6. That's why that doesn't make sense. I wasn't planned to I wasn't planning to explain that. You don't need to know that, but because you asked, I tried to prove that, right? So yeah. Questions? Well, the thing is, if you know, you need to know the signature of your method. You know if your method receives a string or an array or an object or a boolean. You know, right? You need to know. Otherwise, how can you communicate with that method? You need to know. So if you know that your method is expecting a list of numbers, you are calling the method in the wrong way. It's like if I want to add numbers and I pass something like the Benny Hill show. That's wrong, right? I'm not using the method in the right way. So what type of data the sum function is receiving, is expecting? Wrong. It receives a string. No, but wait, guys. Imagine that someone else created that function, and you want to use it because of whatever reason you want to add some numbers to sum them all. So you need to understand what type of data the function is expecting. So can anyone tell me what type of data should I pass here? That's correct. That's correct. Based on that signature, I should pass a comma separated list of numbers. If I pass anything else, that's not gonna work. If I pass through, what's that gonna do, right? I'm not using the method in the right way. That's why we need to use it following the instructions of whoever created the method. So in this occasion, if we got ... we cannot pass an array. If we pass an array, we can run it. What the hell that means? That's something really weird, right? That's running some sort of weird operation. And that's because numbers is an array, and it shouldn't be an array. It should be a comma separated list of values. Any questions? To the end. So you want to put on the right hand side. Is that legal? I've never seen that. I don't think that's correct at all. No, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. However, you can do something interesting based on your question. What happened, guys? Let me show you a problem. If imagine that because of whatever reason, I have something like that. I'm calling the sum function, and I'm passing a string because eventually I want to return hello or like the message. The result is. Yeah. So I want to first of all calculate the total, and then I want to format the message. I want to display the result is, and then the total. So what we can do here is, look, we can point to the first argument like message, you see, and then the rest parameter will gather the remaining arguments. So then here I can do something like that. You see? And that's correct, because numbers will be an array of 3 elements. We are stripping, we are removing the first argument from the string. You see? And obviously we can pass more arguments here. Yeah, so you see we got the first message, message 1, comma, message 2. So now I can do something like that, right? You see? You see the first message, the second message, and then the remaining arguments will be added. Questions? Are you sure? Can I, guys, does it work on the other way around? So can I have the, oops, sorry guys, my headset just died. No, you cannot hear me. No, I know. Can you hear me now?
You just ran out of battery.
Hello? Yeah. My headset just died. Yeah. Now all my neighborhood can hear you, but I hope that's okay. They will learn something, right? All right. So, not sure if is the audio quality good enough, because I'm using now a different microphone.
It's fine.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So now my next question is: can we proceed on the other way around? So can we have, for instance, the comma separated list of numbers at the beginning and at the end? Something like that. Can we do that?
Yeah.
So, you get my point, right? I want to capture all the arguments except the last one.
We have to change the order and the functions.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Can we do that?
Yeah.
I'm afraid we can't. That's not supported in JavaScript, or it wasn't 2 months ago. Let me try it. Maybe now it works, right? No, that doesn't work. Yeah. So that's important, guys. That's important, because I mean, to me, this is one of these things that JavaScript should obviously support, because that's not sure if anyone is talking, but you see, that's pretty much the same thing. I want to gather them all except the last one. Why this is not supported? That's a bit strange. So this is one of the things that you could highlight in a job interview. So what would you like to improve in JavaScript? Or what do you think that JavaScript doesn't work? They can ask you.
But this limits you though, right?
Say it again, Vicky.
But this limits you quite a lot. Like it has to follow specific orders, so then you cannot really.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if because of whatever reason you have to deal with that.
Play. If you can play, you have to use it only just with numbers, so you can really play with.
No, wait. I mean, we can definitely handle that. So we could have something like, I don't know, arguments. So now, because that's an array, right? That's an array of what? So that's an array of 4, 5, 6, and then my headset died, right? That's args. So because that's an array, you can remove the last element of an array. So you could do, guys, how can you get rid of the last element of an array? Do you remember?
Pop.
Pop, that's correct. So you use pop, that will remove the last element. So you can definitely manipulate that. So there are different alternatives. That's fine. However, it's not ideal, because you need to manually check the list of arguments. You need to run some manual operations that could be easily simplified by just supporting something like that. Yeah. So this is one of the things that you can talk about in a job interview. Like, the rest operator, the rest parameter is great. It gathers the arguments, blah blah blah. But it could be great to do something like that. Yeah, to gather all the arguments apart from the last, or the last 2 arguments, or something like that. Yeah. I'm sure JavaScript will support that sooner or later, but today, 2020, that's not working yet.
I mean, you should support it, because then you have to do extra stuff, like it's supposed to make your life easier.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else, guys? Any questions?
I think so.
No? So that's the first usage of the rest parameter. Yeah? So this is about gathering. We capture a comma-separated list of arguments. Let me show you the opposite problem. So imagine that I have a function called min, and the function min receives two numbers, 4 and 5, a and b, and I want to find which is the minimum number between a and b. So can anyone tell me how will you solve the problem?
Would we return math.min a b?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Math.min a and b. Yeah. So if we run it, that returns 4. If I pass 7 and 5, that's return 5. Easy, right? However, what if what we got here is an array? Yeah, instead of passing a comma separated list, we have an array. So how can you solve the problem?
You need to transfer the array because.
Can you call them in the argument in the second line? Can you call that, for example, numbers?
Numbers. Okay, I like that. I like that because that's an array of numbers. So fine. And then what else?
Yeah. And then in the third line, where A and B are, put the rest parameter ... and then numbers.
Wait. That's very interesting, Lauren. So first of all, can I do that? That should be the first natural thing you could think about, right? So can I use math.min with an array?
No, you need to pass each one individually, don't you?
That's correct. That's correct. That's not. I don't know why. That should be acceptable in JavaScript as well, right? You see how many things you can talk about today about how to improve JavaScript, yeah? So that should work, right? But look at what Lauren suggested. ... numbers. That's very interesting. And that's actually correct, Lauren. Why she is right. So Lauren is right because the rest parameter, let me add it here, ... when applied on a variable, it spreads the elements, spreads its elements. Yeah. So numbers is an array. So here, look, in reality, we got 7 and 5. By putting the ... as a prefix, we are extracting the content of the array. So eventually, you get a comma separated list. Yeah. So it's the same, but on the other way around. When you apply the rest parameter on the argument, you transform a comma separated list into an array, and here you transform an array into a comma separated list. You see, it's exactly the same, but applied on the other way around. So that should work. You see? And now the beautifulness of this algorithm is it doesn't matter how many arguments we have, right? That should always work. Questions?
No.
Anyone?
No.
All right. So let me present you the last example. Can we combine both? So imagine that I want to stick to the min method. Yeah. However, because of whatever reason, what we need to do is we want to pass a comma separated list of arguments, and we don't know how many arguments are we gonna pass. Something like that. So, can anyone tell me how can we solve the problem using math.min?
If we add them,
So what do you want to confirm?
Yeah, sorry, Ricardo. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I want to solve the problem. So I want to change lines number 3, 4, and 5 and solve the problem. So if I call the method with 6, 7, 5, and 2, that's going to return 2. If I call the method with numbers 6 and 7, that's going to return 6. You know, I'm just trying to, create a function that gives me the minimum number.
Would it not be pretty much what we had beforehand? So in the function min parentheses at the top, line 3 has numbers. And then in line 4 in the parentheses there, ... numbers.
That's interesting, Max.
Can we do concat?
Wait. No, you cannot do concat. You cannot do concat. Yeah, I want the most simplistic solution possible. All right, that's
I
interesting.
think you need to add the dot.
Wait.
Yeah.
Give me a second, guys.
Oh, yeah, I think Elena's right. Yeah, I've spotted it, I think. I think so, yeah. Okay.
All right, so maybe half of the audience didn't catch what the problem is. So look, what type of data numbers is, based on what you've done?
It's just a list of arguments.
It's a list. No, what type of data? Is it a string? Is it a boolean? Is it an array? Is it a number? Is it a function? What type of data numbers is?
That's numbers at the moment.
Numbers.
That's
It's only going to be one number, right?
that's correct,
No,
Elena.
it's numbers, yeah.
It's just the first number, yeah, because we got one argument,
Yeah,
so it's gonna
yeah.
point to the first argument, 6 or minus 3, yeah, that's it. So that doesn't really make sense. I mean, if we run it, it's telling you cannot even do that. You cannot spread one number. How can you spread that? That doesn't really make sense, right? That's why it throws an error. So I think Elena had an idea, or Lauren, not sure who was that. So whoever first suggested a change. Can you repeat that, please?
Go on, Elena.
Elena? She has a connection issue.
Yeah, I was thinking to add ... in.
All right, that's
She's got it instead. I think she meant add ... in line 3.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
you see, look how something complicated enough to deal with became absolutely trivial thanks to the rest parameter.
In the main.
All right, sorry, Elena. There we have some issues. We just get 30% of your words. It's a bit difficult to follow that. So now, what type of data numbers is on line number 3?
Now an array.
Now it's an array because we are gathering. That's correct, Max. We are gathering all the arguments. So in the first use case scenario, numbers is an array. Yeah.
And then on line 4, that's now then going to go through the array, isn't it? And
Exactly.
separate them into a common separated list.
Exactly. That's absolutely right, Max. Now on line number 4,
Yeah.
we are inverting the process. So first of all, we gather and then we spread. Why we gather? Because we applied in an argument. Yeah, we applied in the parentheses when we declare the function. Why we spread later on? Because it's the same process on the other way around. Yeah, we got an array, ... and then we spread it. We transform the array into a comma-separated list of numbers, which is what math.min is expecting.
Yeah.
What else, guys?
Nothing from me.
Can we... What happens if I got an array of fruits? Fruits... I may regret of this example. So the thing is, the rest parameter is very powerful. I mean, we can keep talking for hours about how to use it in more advanced use cases scenarios. So can I, for instance, can I combine the structuring with the rest parameter? So can I do you see that?
Yeah, I think so.
So
Yeah.
what type of data other fruits is gonna be?
An array of banana and orange.
Absolutely brilliant, Lauren. That's correct. You see, so I'm combining destructuring. I'm destructuring an array with the rest parameter. Is it being used here? Is it used to spread or to gather?
Gather.
To gather, that's correct, because it's gathering the last two arguments into an array. Can we use it on the other way around?
No, because rest has to be the last.
That's correct. That's correct. As we've seen before, that shouldn't work. You see, that's today in 2020. That's not allowed. Yeah, but you know, as far as it remains at the end of the list, that's fine. You can use it.
Cool.
And yeah, and that's pretty much it. There is the rest operator, the rest parameter also works with objects, but I don't want to go that far because that's a bit more complicated. Yeah, that's a bit more complicated. So but just FYI, if you like the rest parameter and you want to master it, you know, there are some advanced use cases scenarios that go beyond the scope of the session. Any final thoughts, guys? Anything else?
No, it's really useful. Thanks.
No? Cool. Awesome. Let me know if you need any help, guys. That was it from my side. So thank you very much and see you later.